So I like to pull out those tangible results and showcase those, because what happens is readers can see themselves in those stories. So it's more believable, it's more credible when it's coming from the mouths of their customers. And then people are more likely to believe it and then convert into customers.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited today because we have a very special guest. Her name is Andrea Haschart, and Andrea is a specialist in helping business-to-business owners, coaches, consultants really increase their sales and conversions by writing powerful case studies that increase the know, like, and trust factor while shortening that sales cycle. And she's known for taking a unique approach to interviews, asking very specific questions that really dig deep to uncover customers' motivations for buying. And then she shares those valuable insights with her clients so they can hone in on that messaging and create offers that maximize their sales. So please join me in welcoming Andrea Haschart to the platform. And today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you as an entrepreneur can use case studies in your business to attract new customers and increase sales. So thank you, Andrea, for joining our platform today.
Thank you, Susanne. It's great to be back.
So first of all, let's give us an idea as to what a case study is.
Sure. A case study is really social proof. Customers sharing their stories and showing the transformation, how a business, a product or service helped them to solve their problem. So it kind of shows a before, a middle, and an after. It sort of follows that proven narrative arc. And it's really a powerful marketing asset that any business can use across their channels.
And so is like a case study like a testimonial, or how does that differ from a testimonial?
So a case study is typically longer because it tells that full or complete story from beginning to end. And testimonials are typically much shorter, just like a snippet or a snapshot.
Got it. So it's a real in-depth review of a customer's journey then, and what it was like to work for you, really, is what I'm hearing and understanding from that standpoint. And tell me about, in terms of case studies, how has that impacted a business in terms of sales? Like, what does that do specifically for them?
Well, typically it increases profits or revenue because of the way it attracts new customers and converts them into paying customers. And in terms of sometimes it's not always revenue based, like it might be a physical transformation even. I know I've done some case studies with weight loss and boutique fitness gyms. So what's happening with them is they're showcasing one of their customers that's had success with either weight loss or on a health journey, improving their health and fitness. So sometimes it's not always a numbers, like a profit, a revenue goal that they're hitting, but it's more like, they lost 50 pounds, they ran a marathon, they can fit into a smaller size clothing. So I like to pull out those tangible results and showcase those, because what happens is readers can see themselves in those stories. So it's more believable, it's more credible when it's coming from the mouths of their customers. And then people are more likely to believe it and then convert into customers.
I love that. So if a company is wanting to implement case studies in their business and they're wanting to start that process, where should a company start in terms of being able to create case studies?
Well, the first would be figuring out who your best customers are to ask to participate in the case study. And I recommend that businesses have some way of tracking or keeping track of customers and the results that they're getting, so that then when they hire someone like me to conduct and write a case study, they know who they're going to ask. to participate. And there is a process that I follow. I help my clients sometimes determine who the best customers are. They're always someone who is a happy customer, somebody who has proven results, somebody that's experienced success, and then also somebody that's willing to sometimes get vulnerable and share a story. I have uncovered or heard lots of things during interviews that I kind of wonder if I'm able to share them. And I always make sure to get permission from the person that I'm interviewing. I actually get their approval or sign off on the case study draft before I turn it into my client. So they can feel comfortable that something's not going to be put out or put up on a website without them knowing.
Love it. So tell me about, I think one of the hard things that people struggle with or entrepreneurs struggle with in terms of collecting those testimonies and their stories. Now, we all know that they're amazing and they're very helpful for one's brand, but especially in like more sensitive types of businesses, if you've got HIPAA laws that may be in play where you can't really, discuss different things that your patient may have undergone, or maybe a legal firm that doesn't quite want to put their client's business out there in that way. Or, even sometimes accounting firms may not want to let people know who their clients are. What's the best way to approach a client and ask if we can conduct a case study?
So I found that a simple email is a good place to start. Just sort of, I have like a template that I share with my clients that is just sort of an easy, casual way to ask. And it sort of describes the process so they know what to expect. I know I try to make it as streamlined and quick and easy as possible for my interviewee. And I typically keep interviews to about a half hour. And then I always ask if I need to, could I follow up with questions by email? So I guess just making it as simple as possible for them is where I like to start.
I love it. So just start out by asking, would you be willing to share your story with that?
Right. And, something that I found is important too, is to show them a sample of what a finished case study is like so that they can actually see it and know what they're agreeing to. I know I had a case study where, like I said, someone revealed some embarrassing moments, very vulnerable things, and he kind of started to get cold feet. And so, and he had seen one of my case studies, but I think it just got kind of real for him. And so we talked through some of those things. And again, I got his final approval on what we agreed to put out before it went to my client. So we worked it out.
I love it. So what are some good questions that we can ask while conducting a case study?
Sure. The questions are really critical because one, it helps you to keep it short or to the point. You don't have to continue going back, asking follow-up questions. So one that I really like is I ask all of my interviewees, what was the turning point where you knew that something had to change? And that's where I really get down to the gold. And another thing that I do, sort of a tactic that I use, is that I have a list of about 20 questions, and some of them are asking the same question, but in a slightly different way. So if I don't feel like I've gotten what I need, I can always ask the question in another way just to kind of dig in a little deeper. And I also always sort of pause, I let them answer. And that's also where the good stuff comes out, is when I just allow them that time to think and talk.
Yeah, definitely. That moment of silence, that rambling, right? It's where you can get all that juicy morsel from. Really, from that standpoint. So that's a really great. Now, where do case studies go wrong? Like where do we make mistakes in terms of case studies?
So one would be not interviewing the customer. I have seen businesses who try to write a case study just from their perspective. Like they might have some results, they know what they've done for the customer, but they're missing the emotion behind it. They're missing the language that the customer is talking about their problems and the solution. And those are the powerful pieces that potential customers are reading and seeing that's connecting. So they're missing that connection point when they don't interview the customer and just try to write it themselves. Another one would be doing it themselves, not really being familiar with the process and just trying to sort of wing it, because there's definitely a process and sort of an order to the process. I record all of my interviews, I transcribe them, I write write the study. There's editing involved. So there's really a process. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's difficult to get it right.
I imagine. Now, also with case studies, depending on the line of business that you're in or the sensitive nature of the work that goes into the work that you do with your clients, right? Where is the best place to publish a case study? Is that something that goes out to everybody? Is that something that you keep for a very select few of prospects that you really want to work with? How do you actually use those case studies to increase sales?
There's lots of ways to use case studies. The easiest two are to use them in your social media and also on your website. Social media, you can pull out quotes, for instance, and highlight that or a result, and then link back to the full case study PDF. And then on a website, I've seen websites that have dedicated tabs for case studies so that as a business owner is adding customer success stories, they can just add them to that area. I have also had clients put them right on their homepage. They'll say, see more about Johnson's success story, and then there'll be a link that links to that tab on the website.
And are you using the actual customer's name or?
Yes. I mean, certainly with their permission. I mean, when they're agreeing to use their name and also their image. One of the keys to a credible case study is showing the customer and showing their image. I like to use headshots. Or, one of the one gentleman I mentioned was, he hadn't lost all the weight he wanted, and he still had some ways to go. And so he preferred having like more of an action shot, like a side view used, but it actually ended up being better than a headshot because he was lifting weights in the gym. So people could see not only him working out, but they could see the facility that he was in.
Very nice. Now, you talk about being able to repurpose case studies and repurposing actually increasing the ROI. Tell me about that.
Right. So it's really important that once a business has a case study, that they get the full benefit from it. And by that, I mean, use it in multiple ways across all of their marketing channels. We talked about social media and websites. There are lots of other ways to use them. One that I think is really cool that I don't see very often is to put a link in an email signature to a case study, showing, some amazing result that a client got, and then putting a link to the full case study in your email signature. That's kind of a thing that people don't think about, but is a really cool place to showcase a case study. Another one that I like is to use it as a lead magnet or an opt-in. Because again, if you've got a customer with some amazing result, people want to know about that. They're curious. So sometimes, they're willing to give their email address just to get access to that case study.
So as we wrap up today, Andrea, you've shared so many juicy morsels. One of the questions that we like to ask all of our guests, and it's really about, if you could leave us with one tidbit that can change our lives, change our businesses. It can be personal, it can be business related. What would that one piece of advice be?
So I would say, and I can't remember what I told you last time, But I would say just keep going. I know when I started my business, that was kind of a piece that I took from someone that I was like listening to her podcast, just really inspirational. And I know I can remember she said, you can't fail if you just keep going. So we all run into hard things. And if we just push through, we can't fail.
I love that. Keep going, no matter what's happening. Just keep going. Now, Andrea, I heard that you were offering some free offers to our listeners and our viewers today. How can our listeners, viewers, how can they obtain those free offers? And also, how do they get in touch with you to perfect that case study in their own business?
Sure. What I have is an ebook, a free ebook that I created that has 16 different ideas, different ways to repurpose your case studies, and some of which will be a surprise, like we didn't talk about today. And you can get that. I created a bit.ly link, and I know it'll be in the show notes. It's Recycle Stories 16 Ways. And then you can reach me by email, info@andreahaschart.com. You can also visit my website, which will be in the show notes, andreahaschart.card.co. And you could always reach out and find me and connect on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you, Andrea, for sharing that really amazing morsel of information.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.